Okay, so Dan and Ronnie are both still muted.
Okay.
There I am.
Okay. There we go. All right. Rah. Okay. Mike, I hope you can hear us. Okay, I'm just going to have roll call since we're not all together. So we'll call the regular May 12, 2020 board meeting to order. Ronnie Hopper.
Here.
Dan Seal.
Here.
Brad Heffington.
Present.
And I'm Lynn Tate, and my screen indicates that Mr. Beecham is here. Mr. Beecham, can you hear us? Okay, I guess we'll proceed. As we've got 4 of the 5 for sure, that we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It includes county advisory board meetings from Lubbock, Hereford, and Plainview that were held in March. It also is our March minutes. And we did not have a regular board meeting in April because of the COVID-19. And we have our March and our April financial reports and our March and April bill all contained in the consent agenda. What's the board's pleasure on the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve everything on item number 2.
Second.
Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Seal has seconded the motion to approve all items under the consent agenda listed under item 2. All those in favor say by, I guess we're going to vote differently. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Being unanimous, passes. Next item on the consent agenda is, or the next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do not have anyone signed up to register for public comment. I do have an attendee raising their hand, Mike Woodward, if you would like to allow him for public comment.
Okay, we'll open it up for a public comment to Mr. Woodward.
Mr.
Good
Woodward,
afternoon, board. This is Mike Woodward coming from Dripping Springs, Texas. I just wanted to sign in, let you guys know that we're monitoring your online meeting from Central Texas. Commend you for overcoming the challenges from the pandemic. And I think there's great opportunity for you to continue to use this technology once we come out of the pandemic, so that you don't have to drive all the way across the panhandle to get to your meetings. So there's an opportunity there to save some gas and open up to some additional public comment. But it seems to be working, and just want to say, hey guys.
Well, thanks, Mike. We appreciate you checking in on us and being with us this afternoon. Anybody else, Victoria?
no, sir.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 5, applications for water well permits for the month of March. Do you want to do these separately, Jason?
It's up to you. You can.
We'll just take them in the order they're in then. Do all of the permits, applications for water well permits received for the month of March comply with the rules and regulations of the district?
Yes, sir.
I will make that motion on March.
Okay. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hopper has moved and Mr. Seal has seconded the motion to approve the water well permits for the month of March. Any discussion? All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes, it's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the water well permits for the month of April. Likewise, Jason, do all those meet with the rules and regulations of the district?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Is that Brad or Ronnie?
Ronnie.
Okay, so Mr. Seal has moved and Mr. Hopper has seconded the motion to approve the water well permits for the month of April. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being unanimous, motion passes. Board will discuss in item 7, board will discuss and take possible action regarding a Dockum Aquifer Partnership Program funding application. Jason, I'll let you address this.
Yes, sir. So there is the application in the board packet. All of this is, of course, also posted to our website. And accompanying the application is a cost estimate from the water well driller. The location is approximately 4 miles west of Edmondson in Hale County by United Ag LLC. And the application appears to be complete with the required information. The nearest Dockum well to the proposed site is in Castro County, southeastern Castro County. And I believe it's about 13 miles away. And so I spoke with the farm manager, Mr. Stenzeth, Warren Stenzeth, and the owner of the facility also, Leo. And we have some benefit from this location in that the High Plains Aquifer System groundwater model used data from a test oil well approximately 2 miles away. And that information lent a good bit of certainty to the thickness of the Dockum aquifer on the subject property, which in fact is a little over 1,300 feet. And so the owner's description of their conservation and current water supply is included in what you're currently looking at on the screen that Victoria has showing at this point. The lower pages, which are subsequent to the application, are from the driller. And so if we go to those pages, you see the full anticipated cost estimate for the project, which is a 6-inch hole, 1,300 feet deep. And so the total in the estimate before you is $22,580.
Okay. The Jason, just so everybody understands that originally United Ag was looking at doing 1,000-foot hole, 4-inch hole. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that was the $8,860.
That's correct.
And then after you reviewed it and with the additional information, it was suggested that perhaps it should be drilled to 1,300 feet and that the bore size be increased from 4-inch to 6-inch. And what's the purpose for increasing the bore hole size?
So if Victoria can provide the following page for your information, this will help explain some of that. The last bit of geophysical logging that the water district handled was on a property south of Wolford for a project that is exploratory as a public water supply potential for that community on a property that where they do not yet have the water developed. And in that instance, they were looking for the characterization of the sediments in the Edwards Trinity High Plains Aquifer. And at that point, we had access to probably the newest technology that they are using, and it's a nuclear magnetic resonance, NMR. And so this tool is kind of taking the place of what was once a neutron probe. And this tool is a little larger in diameter, but it helps describe the water that's in the formation. So if Victoria can pull up that sample log, I can show you briefly what that type of information looks like.
Jason, I have it here. Can you see it?
Not on the screen.
1 second.
We can see it now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Jason, we can see it, but we don't know what we're looking at, so.
Okay, so Victoria, if you can scroll up just for a moment to where the scale is beginning at 0, that represents the ground surface. So the top of these plots is the ground surface, and as you go down the page, you're going down in the well bore in depth. So what we are looking at on the third part of the charts there has this blue and then kind of purple, and then near the bottom green shaded areas. So this is a simplified representation of the water content that is in the formation. So if you scroll on down, please, at the bottom there is a color designation, and you see there that you have mobile fluid, then you have capillary bound fluid, and then you have clay fluid. So the water that's held in the clay will typically not be mobile in any type of shell or red beds. As you might imagine, there's a certain thickness of clay intervals, and in those intervals, you may find that there is water in them, but it's not mobile. Okay. The capillary bound water is some of the water that's in the capillary spaces of the formation, and can move some, but will not necessarily contribute significantly to the productivity of the well. And then
Jason, is the blue the mobile volume, and the purple the capillary, and the green the clay?
Yes, sir.
So in this one, is the significant green around 240, is that the red bed, or?
If you scroll up just a bit, Victoria, in this case, we have somewhere around 190 feet.
Okay.
In this particular area, the top of the shell units in the Edwards Trinity High Plains. And so from 190 approximately, let's say, to nearly between 230 and 240, some more significant shell units. And then below that shell, you begin to see some of the mobile water, that's the blue water, and some of the limestone and the sand units of the Trinity. And so you can look at the variability in those and potentially use that if they were to pursue well construction, then they would target, for instance, the areas where the blue portion of the chart is more substantial, because those other areas are not likely to contribute much water to the productivity of the water well. So the bottom line for this is that this tool, this is one example, but this tool offers a lot of potential in understanding which sections of an aquifer actually have mobile water that could be captured in a water well. And that tool is somewhere around, I think it's a little over 3.5 inches in diameter. And it's about 13 feet long, and it's quite heavy. And so if we want to use that type of technology in some of the Dockum aquifer test sites, you need a little larger diameter hole to accommodate this tool and the information that it brings. The smaller diameter tools, which we have seen in the past, are also useful, but they don't provide this type and this level of understanding about the mobility of water in the formation. And so that's a reason to expand the hole size from a proposed 4-inch to 6-inch, is to accommodate us acquiring this type of information throughout that profile, which I'm fairly certain doesn't really exist right now, even in other agencies. I know it doesn't exist here at the Water District, but this would be an opportunity using this tool in the Dockum to capture some information that I don't think is available at all.
So it's my understanding that the 8800 proposal would be a typical test hole that Hydro would do, say in Deaf Smith County, if a landowner just called them, and then this additional 13,000 is what I'll call the more high-tech approach. Is that kind of, would you say it's fair, Jason?
Yes, sir. I think it's fair to say that. In addition to that, having the ability to work with partners gives us the ability to maybe consider some specifications and data acquisition from sites that they may not know about, for one, but secondly, necessarily even want to pursue because of the additional cost. But I know the one example we're looking at here is just a singular example, but I think this type of information in the Dockum would be quite useful for our landowners in understanding which sections of the aquifer have this mobile water, which would actually be able to be retrieved or captured in a water well.
So what, I don't know if there is a formal proposal, but what is United Ag willing, how would be their financial participation, and just, I guess, share your thoughts or what information you have in that regard?
Sure. So the first thing to recall is that the Water District, through its engagement with the U.S. Geological Survey, is paying for 100% of the water well logging. So keep that in mind. I don't know exactly what that cost will be for this type of application. Our contract is on a pay-as-you-go basis. And so they're aware of us having an application and the potential to possibly do some logging, but I don't have a whole lot else to offer on that front. As far as the additional 22,580, that is to construct a 6-inch hole to a depth of approximately 1,300 feet, and then subsequently plug it. So the plugging is also part of that because it would be necessary to do so. The phone conversation with the owner from earlier indicated that the cost estimate to go to 1,300 feet first off and to look at 6-inch and more information versus 4-inch and a little more limited info was higher than they originally anticipated. But I think it's part of the process of educating our landowners too on just drilling to 1,000 feet anywhere in the water district isn't necessarily going to give you the information that you need to fully evaluate this resource. And with that said, of 22,580, if the board looked at somewhere around, I'm going to say $10,000 to $12,000 of cost share on that, I think the owner would be agreeable to pursuing the project.
Right now, the owner has suggested they'd pay 10,000. Is that your understanding? But that's not, I guess one of the benefits that I see in this is right in the middle of the water district, and in an area where there's not any production from the Dockum. Anybody have any other thoughts on the proposal or comments?
Yes.
Well, how much are they wanting? They want the whole thing or what?
I think they're willing to, if they pay 10, they'd ask us to pay the 12,580. That may be negotiable. I don't know, Jason. You may. I think so they thought they were going after a $9,000 test hole. And then after we kind of asked for the additional information, they said they would increase to 10 if we'd pay the balance. But obviously they're very interested in this information also. So I don't know. I mean, this is the first one we've had. This is not a municipality. We've obviously had Abernathy, Wolfforth, and Lubbock.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are you presuming that the bottom of the Dockum is less than 1,300 foot?
No, sir, it's right at 1,300. I think the Aquifer tool on the district website indicates somewhere around 1,317 to 1,326 at the proposed site.
So how can we be certain of that? Is that a really good, well-founded number?
So the geophysical log that we were able to locate 2 miles, right at 2 miles west of the facility is one of the control points that the modelers use to ascertain the bottom of the Dockum aquifer in constructing the High Plains Aquifer System groundwater availability model. And so having that control point is unlikely in that part of the water district, but is there as a good control point. So I would say, in answer to your question, that's pretty certain.
Okay, the next thing I want to ask about the estimate is there's a disclaimer at the bottom of the estimate. And I'm wondering, what we might be liable for there in the way of money. And if we wouldn't be better off paying a percentage of it with the landowner as opposed to, or either that or committing a certain amount of money to it.
So if I understand your question, Ronnie, let me back up just a second. The way the program and the guidelines are worded and constructed, the system works on a basis of reimbursement to the landowner, and they would follow a certain prescribed method of ending or holding up their end of the agreement, which would be drilling the hole to certain specifications, allowing the U.S. Geological Survey to perform the logging, and then, of course, ultimately plugging it. But in the agreement, the water district makes with the cooperator up front, there is a not to exceed type approach. And so if they encountered some difficulty and the rig broke or something else happened, then there's provisions, the way our draft agreement looks, to address that type of situation. But if it ended up costing $26,000 up front, the agreement executed with the partner states that our portion of the cost share would be not to exceed.
Okay, okay.
Do you think Hydro will do an agreement for a specific cost, or are they just going to go with an estimate, or do you have any idea?
Well, I think that would likely be part of some final negotiation or final checks prior to the landowner executing an agreement with the water district. So there certainly needs to be communication amongst all parties. And so we would, as we have so far, specify the diameter and depth of the hole that we believe yields the greatest amount of data and information, both to the landowner and to the water district. But then afterward, they're talking to, in this case, the driller about what if the pipe twists off at 800 feet and you have to plug it and come around and do another one. Those types of provisions, we would need to communicate on those. But the hope is that the landowner working on a reimbursement basis would be also highly engaged in making sure to leverage in the money to obtain the most information possible. And if that meant picking up from the failed test hole and moving over 100 feet or 50 feet to an alternate one, I got to think that they would still want the information.
What's your thought on the project, Jason? What are your feelings or insight?
You've stated one thing that's important, Lynn, which is it's pretty well in the middle of the water district. If you look at the anticipated change or gradient in water quality in the Dockum from historical publications, what I think most of us anyway are accustomed to looking at now shows that the line of 5,000 TDF is east of here just a little ways, several miles anyway. So it's somewhere close to the boundary that's believed to be present as far as water quality is concerned. And then secondly, I think the opportunity to have an open hole logging of a Dockum Aquifer site using this new tool that we demonstrated earlier is particularly interesting because the Dockum undoubtedly, and people know this already for the most part, has these sections of just thick clay and mudstone or other types of sediments that really are not going to be all that productive to a water well. And if some of those are the units that also happen to contain maybe some of the higher TDS water, then sealing those off obviously would perhaps improve some water quality parameters also. So for those reasons, I think the water district stands to obtain a pretty good wealth of information using this technology, whether it's here or elsewhere, but it would be in that near boundary of water quality delineation of greater than and less than 5,000 milligrams per liter.
Well, what are they wanting? Are they wanting us to put the whole bill, or what kind of what kind of feeling have you gotten back from them, Jason?
That would, I think, be pretty close to the figures Lynn mentioned, where of the 22,580, they wound up with somewhere around $10,000. If the cost ends up being that much, $10,000 of their own money, which means the water district would be the 12,580.
Okay, that
I think it'd be good to do this, and I don't know if they need any wiggle room, but we could do maybe a motion to, well, I guess I'll make a motion to cost share up to a limited amount of $15,000 in case there's a couple contingencies I have to deal with, because the information will be really good. And we've already asked them to spend a little more by, doing the bigger hole.
Right.
And hopefully it just come in there where it, they estimated it.
I think if we want to know what's going on in the Dockum, this is a great chance. And we got a landowner willing to spend $10,000 of their own money just to find out. I don't know if I can second one. So Dan, Ronnie, interested in seconding this?
I'll second it.
Okay. So Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Seal has seconded the motion to allocate up to $15,000 in cost share for the proposed Dockum test hole in Hale County with United Ag. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being unanimous, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the 2019 Assistance in Irrigation Management Program, the AIM program. I don't know if that's Jason or Victoria, but I'm assuming it may be Victoria. Or maybe Jason, I don't know.
We, to make a quick summary, we presented the information which is currently shown in an annual report to the Texas Water Development Board as part of our obligation as a recipient of grant funds. And these are very simplified. The product that is the final report is a very nice professional publication, which is on the district website. But I wanted the board to be sure and review the information that we are gathering from the telemetry monitoring equipment. And so it is here for your information, and any other details that may be I have omitted, Victoria can fill in, but we're happy to present this as some successes in conservation from that program.
Any questions or thoughts, guys?
No,
One thing I'll say is this telemetry obviously is, I believe definitely conserves water. It helps manage the existing water we have very efficiently. We're ready to go on the next item. The next item, Precinct 3 and Precinct 4, which is Mr. Beecham's precinct and my precinct, are up for election November the 3rd. And in the past, we've used the Bickerstaff Heath firm for the purpose of our election work. And I guess the proposal is, do we want to retain them again this year? In the past, their bills have been pretty reasonable. I think they do a lot of this all over the state. And I think they're well respected, and my thought is we should continue to use them, but I'll let the rest of the board.
I would make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Mr. Hopper has moved and Mr. Heffington has seconded the motion to retain the Bickerstaff Heath firm for election related services for the November 3rd, 2020 election. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being unanimous, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item 10, designate an agent and a deputy agent for the November 3rd, 2020 Precinct 3 and 4 District Director elections. Am I correct, Jason? Victoria was the agent last election?
Yes, sir, that is correct. And Carmen was the deputy election agent.
Okay. Do we have any suggestions of changing that, or we have a motion to appoint those same two individuals?
I'll make the motion to appoint the same two.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Seal has seconded the motion to appoint Victoria Rose Whitehead as election agent and Carmen McCain as deputy election agent. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being unanimous, motion passes. Next item is item 11 on the agenda, and it is any feedback or discuss feedback received during the March 2020 County Advisory Committee meetings in Lubbock, Hereford, and Plainview. And there's a summary, I believe, and you'll all probably already know that, of the questionnaire responses from the county committeeman behind tab 11. I thought there was a lot of input from the county committeeman. One of the things that I thought was especially interesting was, if you look on pages 3 of that summary, talks about the well spacing and whether we should reassess any of that. And district-wide, there were 10 committeemen that thought we should look at 390 gallons per minute and above. 23 of our county committeemen said 560 gallons a minute or above, and 6 said 1,000 gallons per minute or above. We probably only had about, how many total votes do you think we had, Victoria, Jason? 20 something. I looked at it one time and it looked to me like we had about 10 voting in Lubbock and maybe 10 in Hereford and 4 or so in Plainview. So to have 23 is a pretty large percentage of them. We're not really taking any action today. Yeah, there's what I was referring to exactly. But I think obviously we got sidetracked here with COVID-19 and now it's planning season. I'm not suggesting we do anything in the short term, but in the longer term, this may be some way we deal with non-conventional drilling, such as the horizontal wells or something. The other thing I thought of significance was the Dockum well spacing, which is the next page. If you look district-wide, 9 committeemen said we should evaluate our spacing on 265 gallons per minute and above, and 15 said 500 gallons per minute and above. And I think that's something we also ought to consider when we're looking at our rule revisions. Any of the other board members have any comments or thoughts in looking at these summaries from our county committee meetings?
No, I think they were pretty well represented in their opinions.
Right, right. So one of my suggested goals is this, after we get through the busy part of the ag season, that we get back and readdress these. And I guess there's one that said 28 people were in favor of redoing our definition of abandoned well. So I guess that's how many we had voting. And then there was 23 talking about pipeline, that maybe we don't need that anymore. So, okay, we ready for the next item? That's item number 12. Anybody have any changes to their county committees?
I don't.
No.
Okay. I don't either. Okay, next board meeting. That's item 13 on the agenda. What do y'all think? You want to try to everybody be in Lubbock, or do we want to try to do this again? You want to wait and see what happens with the thoughts?
I think we ought to kind of wait and see if they're gonna say we can have a regular board meeting. I prefer that to this. Just saying.
Right. I'm not disagreeing. Okay. Do we want to leave that up to staff as we get closer to the next board meeting to poll the board members and see where we are?
I think that'd be fine.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. I'm not aware of any reason for an executive session. Anybody else? Okay. Guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Mr.
Second.
Seal has moved and Mr. Heffington has seconded the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys. Ladies.
Thank you for putting this together,
Yeah.
staff.
I agree. Good job, Gray. Good job, Victoria and Jason. Carmen.
Thank you. I will end the meeting now.
Okay, thank you.